Hello, this is Deborah Cohen, and we're getting together to celebrate and learn more about Erev Purim, aka Purim in English. This is a festival some of you might know as the Queen of Esther, and we are her guests tonight to learn more about the power of prayer. And I dedicate this teaching to the remaining Israeli captives, 59 of them. This teaching is in their honor, the 59 Israeli captives that are still being hidden underground in Gaza. And I just pray for their soon release. All of them. Bring them all home now. This is in their honor to remember them and for the ones that have been released. This is, after all, a story about Israel. If this interests you and you want to do a deep dive and find out what does Purim have to do with wine, well, get yourself a glass, and if you don't drink wine, get yourself a glass of grape juice, and we'll be back to learn together right after this message.
Ashrei Yoshvei Ashrei Yoshvei V'Teka Ashrei Yoshvei V'Teka Od Yehalelucha Ashrei Yoshvei V'Teka Ashrei Yoshvei V'Teka Od Yehalelucha Selah.
And this is Deborah Cohen, and we're celebrating the month of increasing joy. This is why Purim is in the month of Adar. In English, it would be the month of March, I guess. So we're just going to dive right in and learn a little bit deeper things about Purim. Now, for many years, I have gone to a Purim party, and it seems like it's the same old. Buy a new costume, wear an old costume, and BYOB, and, read the Megillah of Esther. But usually they read it so fast because I don't know why, you're supposed to learn about the miracles of Purim, but if the rabbi is reading warp speed in Hebrew, I'm lost. I don't know if anybody else is, but I just miss the point of why we do this. So I wanted to do a deeper dive, and I discovered in my searching that wine has something to do with this. And I'm like, okay, now you're talking my language. So if you're in a place where you can listen, or maybe you're driving and you want to listen, I hope you find this interesting. Now, we want to talk about the different levels of understanding the Torah, first of all, because not everybody is at the same level of understanding when they dive into the Torah. Initially, most of the time, it's in a literal sense, meaning the Peshat. Once you have digested that knowledge and you keep seeking wholeheartedly, you get into the drash, or the knowledge of things, and pursue deeper to the remez, or a hint, the revelation of what's going on in a deeper sense. And finally, what Rav Shaul said, I wish that you all knew the Sod, S-O-D, or the mysteries. Most people don't get that deep into scripture study because it takes commitment, it takes calling, it takes a lot of study, a lot of avodah, a lot of work. And we all awaken at different times. So, not to feel bad about whatever level of Torah study you're at, or maybe you're here and you have been a wandering Jew and you don't know anything, like, and that's okay. Or maybe you're a Christian and you're wondering, why do the Jews celebrate Purim? Well, here we go. Let's dig into it. And this is, of course, based on the book or the Megillah of Esther, the queen of Shushan. Now, the Sod, which is what I was just talking about, or secret of Purim, often explored through the numerical value of Hebrew words, particularly the Hebrew word yayin, that's the Hebrew for wine, and Sod, which actually means secret, suggests that wine, with its hidden origins, let me get this, wine can reveal hidden truths and lead to a deeper understanding of the Purim story and its meaning. Aha! Let me take a little sample of this wine. Maybe you want to take a sample of yours. As we continue, here's a deeper dive into the Sod, or the secret mysteries of Purim. The Hebrew word for wine, which, as I just mentioned in Hebrew, is yayin, has a numerical value of 70, which is the same as the Hebrew word for secret, sod. So, is that a coincidence, or is God trying to tell us there's something very special about the number 70, which connects to the word wine and the word secret? This numerical equivalence suggests that wine, with its hidden origins, can reveal hidden truths and lead to a deeper understanding of the Purim story and its meaning. Now, this following phrase in Hebrew is something that you might have heard before during a festival or when people are talking about Purim. Nichnas yayin, yatsa sod. Repeat after me. Nichnas, yayin, yatsa, sod. And what does that mean? Wine enters, secrets emerge. I think this is like delightful. Seriously? Okay, wine enters and secrets emerge. L'chaim. Yes. Nichnas yayin yatsa sod encapsulates this idea. So let's do a deep dive and find out exactly what does wine have to do with Purim. In wine, we see an allusion to the possibility of unlimited growth and improvement. Upon opening up the book of Esther, one is cast into a banquet of royal proportions, one that spans over 180 days and includes participants from 127 provinces. Rich and poor, young and old were all invited to the royal feast, the men to King Ahasuerus, I hope I said that right, Ahasuerus, his party, and to the woman, to Queen Vashti. Queen Vashti, this is before Esther became the queen. This king, Ahasuerus, was married to Queen Vashti. Yet the name for the festivity is a peculiar one, Mishteh, which loosely translates as a drinking party in Hebrew, Mishteh. And what were the beverages on tap at this party? Only wine. So if you have changed Purim in 2025 to include all other alcoholic beverages, you've strayed a little bit from the original intention. And what were the beverages on tap, as I said? Wine. In one of the many textual references to wine, the book of Esther records, quote, royal wine was served in abundance, end quote. That's from chapter 1, verse 7. And the sages of the Talmud asked a question about this passage. How do we qualify the term abundance? They answered that each guest drank wine whose vintage was older than he or she, according to the Megillah 12a. So here we have another discrepancy between modern day Purim parties that say you can drink till you get sloshed, but it's not accurate because it's not in context with the way the story was originally recorded. So I'll repeat it again in case you weren't really listening. Or I need to hear it again because the average brain takes 3 repetitions, and I'm pretty average. They answered that each drank wine whose vintage was older than the drinker. So I'd have to drink a glass of wine that was older than 1954. Think about it. The Maharal of Prague, one of Judaism's most noted philosophers and Kabbalists, gives us a fascinating insight into the rabbi's statement. Why did they do this? In other words, why did they serve each guest wine older than he? And I'm just using the pronoun he, but, so don't get your panties in a knot. If you're a she listening, it's a she also, okay? They just used a he back then, whatever, Okay, so because there is an essential connection between wine and a person. The whole time that a person grows older, their thoughts become clearer. So too with wine. The more that it ages, the better it becomes. So that must be where they got the saying, like a fine wine, she is more beautiful every day. Thank you. Like a fine wine, we're getting older and we're getting better. That is like music to my ears. As I just hit my 70th birthday, so I don't want to turn into an old has-been. I want to become more beautiful, like Sarah and Esther. But of course, Esther was soaked in all these oils and flowers for months before she even met the king. Essential oils and flowers. I mean, whoa, talk about a treat. Okay, so let's talk about this. So guess where this expression comes from? So too with fine wine. The more it ages, the better it becomes. From Or Chadash. So though the Maharal's comment can be understood at face value, he is also hinting to a profound idea about the nature of wine. Everything else in the world deteriorates over time. But wine is unique in that it becomes better. This distinctive quality hints to God's intended purpose for all creation. Do you agree? Put it in the chat if you agree. Do you feel like you're getting better? Man was never supposed to die. Like a fine wine, God intended that man would constantly improve with age. And when I say man, I mean woe man also. But our mystical tradition relates that when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, death entered the world. The physical body that holds the spark of the divine became destined to return to its source. The very ground we walk on is where we're going to go someday. But there was one hint that God left us to illustrate God's initial desire, and that is wine. Oh! I'll have another sip. Go ahead, join me. I hope you're drinking something older than you now, that we know why you should be. If you go to a Purim party tonight and they drink wine, go up to somebody and say, so what year is that wine that you're drinking? And they'll say, well, maybe they'll answer you. Or maybe they'll say, that's a strange question. And just say, I'm just curious, what year is that wine? Did you know that according to Maharal, is that where I read it? Make sure. The Maharal of Prague says that it was intended in the context of the original story of Esther that we're supposed to actually be drinking wine that's older than us. Some people will say, well, that was Maharal. That's not me. Okay, well, that's where they're at. They just told you where they're at in their understanding of Purim. All right. Like a fine wine, God intended that man would constantly improve with age, but our mystical tradition relates that when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, death entered into the world, which I just said. The physical body that holds the sparks of the divine, we all have sparks of the divine within us, goes back to the ground that we walk on. But there was one hint that God left us to illustrate God's initial desire, and that is wine. Wine develops greater texture and taste with age. In wine, we see an allusion to the possibility of unlimited growth and improvement, which was intended at the outset of creation. Do you have that mindset? Note that Maharal compares wine to the thoughts of man and woman and not to the man or woman himself or herself. The thoughts. There is an aspect of the human being that maintained its pristine state after the fall from Eden, according to the Maharal. That is our advanced intellect. This is the spark of the divine inside all of us and one of the unique qualities that defines our humanity. Our intellect is not rooted in the realm of the physical. Now, this might blow your mind a little bit, but get over yourself, okay? This is so key. I'm going to repeat that sentence. Our intellect is not rooted in the realm of the physical, but rather in the spiritual. Therefore, if it were not bound to the constraints of the body, it would continue to develop infinitely. This is why thoughts of a person or intellect and not the person themselves are compared to wine, a metaphor for the infinite evolution. By examining a famous statement made by the sages of the Talmud, with the Maharal's interpretation, we can understand another hidden aspect of wine. According to Eruvin 65a, quote, when wine enters, secrets are revealed, end quote. Wine, which I mentioned in the beginning is yayin, comes from a hidden place. Therefore, its numerical value is 70, which is the same as the word sod, which is secret in Hebrew, number 70. And this is according to the Chidushei Agadah Sanhedrin. For the Maharal, who developed a numerical approach in his study of the entire written and oral tradition, numbers contain special significance. A numerical connection between two Hebrew words is not simply a random connection. It's not a coincidence. It illustrates a deep conceptual bond. In the Maharal system, multiples of 10 do not change the character of the number. Therefore, we can relate to 70 as a large 7. Now, if you're a math whiz, you're going to be like eating this up. You're going to be chomping at the bit. But I'm not a math whiz, so I'm thinking, let me read that again. I don't quite get it. Maybe you math people can explain it to me. All right, but I'm going to continue on because I don't want you to get bored. But before we understand the number 7, let's talk about the number 6. Okay. In the three-dimensional physical world, everything has 6 sides. As in the sides of a cube, the number 6 relates to the 6 sides of the physical existence in which we live. Now, believe it or not, I don't really know what this means, but I'm sharing it with those because I'm sure there's some like extremely intelligent human beings that are great with numbers, and I have no idea. So maybe if I meet you someday with a glass of wine, you can explain how there's 6 sides in the three-dimensional physical world. That sounds like a Star Trek question, doesn't it? Okay. The number 6 relates to the 6 sides of the physical existence in which we live. 6 sides? Okay, I get it. I think I get it. Up, 1, down, 2, left, 3, 4, right, front, 5, back, 6. Just like we shake the lulav. 6 sides. I never knew that's why we shook the lulav like that. Okay, I learned something else new in sharing this with you. I hope you're getting excited too. 7, however, is the point at which the center of the cube. It's the hidden place where everything in the physical world has its spiritual source. And I talked about the divine sparks. That's what I'm talking about. It is the point that represents unity, an inner essence of all existence. Now, we can understand the Maharal's statement that wine comes from the place of concealment. The numerical value of the word for wine points us to the hidden, inner essence of creation. It also illustrates our appointed task in the world. Bringing the 7, the elusive ideal, into the 6, the physical nature of existence. This is a reason why wine is present for almost every significant Jewish life cycle event, as well as at every Shabbat and festival. At these central moments, wine sits at the center of our table and reminds us all about our hidden, infinite potential. Do you feel like you have infinite potential? Are you aware of the divine sparks that are within your physical body and mind? At the end of the book of Esther, Mordecai pronounces that the 14th and 15th of the month of Adar should be celebrated as days of mishteh and joy. The celebrations must, like the party of King Ahasuerus and Queen Vashti, include wine. But unlike the royal party, Purim is not about drinking to get drunk. Glory be to God. I'm sorry, but I'm so glad to hear that, because every time somebody says Purim is about getting sloshed, I'm like, I don't think that's what God has in mind. Seriously? Even though I couldn't tell them why, something in me said, no, this is not right. God doesn't want us all to get drunk on his feasts. The point is not to numb our senses, but rather to attune them to the hidden reality that is normally hidden from our eyes. By drinking wine on Purim, we have the ability to see through the 6 sides of the physical straight through to the center, to the absolute essence of ourselves, and to the boundless possibilities that surround us. When wine enters, the secrets are truly revealed. And that, my friend, is a teaching from Kabbalah, KabbalahOnline.org. In this particular spelling of Kabbalah, it's a project of the ascent of Safed, or Sfat, in Israel. The spelling of Kabbalah here is Kabbala, online.org. Okay, so let us remember that Purim is much more than a costume party. It's not about getting drunk, and it certainly is about reading, like we just shared, to understand the sod mysteries of Purim. The wine is number 70. The sod is number 70. The secrets within each one of us are to be delved in and explored during the reading of Esther's Megillah. I hope this has made you more curious about studying more about Purim. You can go to Chabad.org, which is where I initially found this teaching. And I am wishing you all a Chag Purim Sameach. Let us take a moment now and pray for the captives in Israel. Soul Sing CD 2025. DeborahCohenMusic.com